So, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this our first of our webinar series, where we're looking at all of the advanced ITIL4 modules, and we're just looking to provide an insight into what they're all about, what the content is, really trying to set the scene for those of you who may be considering these training for yourself or your colleagues. Really, we're just sort of setting the scene for you to sort of identify whether you think that these particular modules are of value to you. And of course, each of these modules maps onto books in the ITIL framework, so it gives you a great opportunity to sort of also see what's changed in ITIL4 if you got experience of previous versions, but also if not, then it gives you sort of a flavour for the types of things which are covered in the advanced module. So yeah, good morning, welcome. I know some of the names that are connecting in, some of you I don't know, so I'll give some formal introductions in a second, but we're here today to look at one of the specific modules, the Create, Deliver and Support module. And of course, you may well be aware that we're running a few of these Insight series webinars over the next few weeks, and I'll give you details of some of the others as we get to the back end of this particular webinar. Okay, just as a little bit of an introduction, I know some of you will know who Sysop are, and I know certainly some of you know who I am, but just for those of you who don't really, Sysop are a specialist in the area of IT best practice and IT service management generally. So we offer training and consultancy services, and we've been doing it for an awful long time. In fact, we were founded back in 1985, which was a long time ago, and happens to be before ITIL was even born. I think ITIL was born sort of early 90s. But right from the very outset of our organisation, we've always recognised the benefit of IT best practice generally. And when ITIL came along and we sort of brought it into our products and service portfolio, we recognised the benefit that it brings to the IT organisation. And we wanted to go out to our customers and sort of demonstrate practically how this stuff can help them. So we have a pragmatic approach, which is great from a consultancy point of view. Obviously, we're sort of practically helping our clients identify how to align their IT service practices to the framework of ITIL and other service management frameworks too. But also in the classroom, when we're delivering our training courses, then that focus on organisational benefit really does bring home the key messages, and our approach enables people to actually go back and do something with this practical theory, which is really what we're looking for. Also, people are looking to get through the exams. Much of the courses come with an exam qualification, so we're pleased to say that our focus on organisational benefit also lends itself to exceptionally high examination pass rates, and obviously being able to relate the content to the real world is one of our particular differentiators, I would say. Another key differentiator is those of you who know us know that we're a family business. My father, Stuart Sawle, founded the business back in 1985. His wife, Janice, is our operations manager, and myself as I'm sort of director of professional services, driving our product and service portfolio. But the family nature of our business is one which I think lends itself to good customer service overall. Certainly that's what we tend to glean from the feedback that we get from the sessions that we provide and the training courses and the services that we provide. A little bit of information about me. I've been over 20 years IT experience now. My dad gave me a job out of university initially as a COBOL programmer, and over those sort of 21 years, I've been in a number of different roles from a development side. I've been in the commercial side, actually working with our clients in a pre-sales capacity. And these days, I sort of find myself as well, the ITIL4 product lead, sort of driving some of the development of our ITIL4 training portfolio, and providing those services in the classroom and on a consultancy basis. Really hoping to bring my experience to the fore when I work with our clients. So been through the whole ITIL qualification scheme. I know some of you on the call probably have went through the painful 3 hour written papers to achieve ITIL version 2 managers. The manager certificate. I know some of you definitely are ITIL version 3 experts. I'm not sure if we've got any ITIL4 managing professionals on the session yet, but partly that's what these modules are all about, moving us towards these particular qualifications and goals overall. But my main thing is to say that we're particularly passionate about IT service management, and I think knowing some of you on the call, and I'm guessing some of you who I don't know as well, you feel the same way. And I often sort of make the point on our training offerings that the subject of IT service management isn't perhaps the most sexy subject in the world, but actually it is something that we are particularly passionate about, and we do our very best to bring it to life. And hopefully you will get a good flavour of that today. In terms of the agenda, I may have squeezed quite a lot into this hour. The idea is that I give you a flavour of the create, deliver, and support module, and leave a little bit of time for questions at the end. So hopefully we'll be able to do that. But effectively, in order to introduce create, deliver, and support, we have to have a look at the ITIL4 framework as a whole and the qualification scheme that goes with that. And then we can start to look at a bit closer at what it means to create, deliver, and support products and services. So we'll explore that. We'll look at value creation and some of the concepts that ITIL4 introduces, and certainly those concepts which are very relevant for this particular create, deliver, and support module. We'll cover other areas of the course content as we go through this particular agenda. And I'll finish with sort of an indication of who the target audience is for this particular module, so you can sort of take on board whether you feel that you feel into that category, or whether it's your colleagues or whatever that might well be. For each of these modules, there is a designated target audience for all of them, although it's quite generally well expected that the IT service management professionals may want to explore all of them and potentially go on to achieve some of the higher qualifications. But as I say, we'll have some time for questions at the end. You guys are all muted throughout this session. I've got quite a lot of you on, so it'd be chaos if I didn't do it this way. But the chat facility is there for you to post any questions as I go through the session as we go, and I'll review them at the end. And when we get to the end of the section, then happy for you to post questions. And we're due to finish at 10:30, but I'm happy to sort of stick around and see any specific questions that you have if we go beyond that. But if not, then we'll be rounding up around about that time. Okay, so I think it does just sort of to paint the picture. We need to have a look at what ITIL is now. ITIL's been around for a long time. It's today it documents how to do service management like it always has. But I think it is fair to say that the IT world is changing significantly. Certainly over the last 2 or 3 years, chatting to our clients and understanding what's going on out there, we're sort of recognizing that the pressure on IT service management has been growing, in that business demand for things is ever increasing. They want things faster, better, cheaper, and things like agile have emerged, and agile ways of working, and the IT service management space traditionally has kind of struggled to cope with that. So things like DevOps has emerged, and other ways of doing things, which are potentially seen as being a sort of competitor to ITIL, really. But the update from ITIL version 3 to 4, which was commissioned a couple of years ago now, it was all about trying to update the relevance and bring it more in line with the modern world, the digital economy, if you like. And actually, the 4 in ITIL4 is to reference the fact that although it is the 4th version of ITIL, this is true. it's there to reflect that we're actually in the fourth industrial revolution, and that's really what it's indicating. And this slide is kind of giving you just a bit of an insight into those things. Well, effectively, what we're saying is the fourth industrial revolution is demonstrating that technology at the moment, technological developments, are significantly changing the way that we live our lives. So, just a few things there: artificial intelligence, the wind farms, 3D printing, robotics, artificial intelligence from not just Alexa type thing, but it's sort of creeping into more commercial and business worlds, which we'll talk about more on this particular session. All of these technological developments are significantly changing the way that we do things, and ITIL has been updated to kind of provide us with guidance on management of IT-enabled service with this evolving technology, and also with the evolving ways of working from an agile perspective, and trying to bring that traditional guidance more in line with those modern days of working. And that's really what ITIL4 is all about. And in terms of ITIL4 provides comprehensive guidance, as ITIL always has. Some of you will know that the L in ITIL stands for library, and that's to demonstrate that this is best practice guidance documented in some publications. So here we're just indicating that that there are a number of publications that contribute towards the ITIL4 framework, starting with the Foundation publication. So there is a book which covers ITIL at the sort of the foundation level, perfectly aligned with the ITIL Foundation training course. But that's there to sort of cover ITIL from that initial perspective, so that we get an overall view. But then we've got 5 core publications from there where it expands on ITIL in different areas. So obviously we're going to focus on create, deliver and support today, but there is also drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, direct, plan and improve, and digital and IT strategy. So I say we're not going to talk about the others other than the create, deliver and support is going to be our focus today. But we do have upcoming webinars for you to sign up to and have a look at that. I know some of you have already done that. So whilst we've got these core publications, I should also point out that a step away from the traditional approach with this, supplementary to these core modules, there are 34 practice guides. Now, what we're effectively saying here is that in previous versions of ITIL, we would cover things like incident problem management, those sort of processes as we knew them as was in the core publications. Whereas now, because that led to a misconception that certain practices or processes were only relevant in certain life cycle stages in the previous version, the idea is now that we've stripped them out completely, because they can be then referenced in each of the core modules, and they can be seen as separate publications, which are can be played in as and when you need to as you go through these particular core guidance. So there are 34 practice guides because there are 34 practices, and say a few examples on there: service desk, incident management, problem management, and these are actually publications that aren't available in hard copy like the core publications are. These are actually available through Axelos's subscription service, so they're available as an online resource. And the latest check, I think it was a £50 per year subscription fee to sign up for Axelos's My Axelos service, which includes My ITIL as well as a few other things. I think Prince2 is another example that they're providing this particular service for. But anybody who takes an ITIL exam is provided with 12 months access for free to these practice guides. So if any of you have done that over the last 12 months, then you should have access to these publications anyway. But they're available as an online resource. And along with the core publications, then we have an ITIL certification scheme for ITIL4. So just to briefly walk you through this, the starting point at the bottom is, as always has been, ITIL Foundation. I think this particular diagram is a little bit confusing in that it almost looks like there are two ITIL Foundation courses. There isn't. This is referencing that the ITIL Foundation is a prerequisite to go on and achieve any of the Managing Professional modules on this big square on the left, as well as it's a prerequisite to go on and achieve any of the ITIL Strategic Leader qualifications. So we must have an ITIL4 Foundation certificate if we want to move on to attend and achieve any of the qualifications on this particular diagram. The ITIL Managing Professional and the ITIL Strategic Leader, these blue boxes, these reference qualifications and not training courses. So what we're indicating here is that if we have ITIL Foundation and we achieve the Create, Deliver and Support, Drive Stakeholder Value, High Velocity IT and Direct Plan and Improve qualifications, then we would become an ITIL Managing Professional. Likewise, if we have ITIL Foundation and we achieve Direct Plan and Improve and Digital and IT Strategy, then we would become an ITIL Strategic Leader. So these are two independent qualifications. You can see that the module Direct Plan and Improve is actually covered on both of these streams. So it is the same course. So what we're effectively saying here is if somebody was to achieve all 4 Managing Professional qualifications, then in order to achieve both, then you would just need to add in the ITIL Leader, Digital and IT Strategy to become a Managing Professional and a Strategic Leader. This causes a little bit of confusion. There is also an ITIL Master qualification, which is under development in terms of what this is going to be all about. It's likely to be a sort of a dissertation type exercise to demonstrate practical experience of applying ITIL theory in the real world. And in order to go down that particular route, you must meet the prerequisites of having an ITIL Managing Professional qualification and an ITIL Strategic Leader qualification. This diagram doesn't demonstrate that if you have both of these qualifications, then you are an ITIL Master, which is the misconception that we often see out there. And just to finish off this, that we also have this Managing Professional transition option here on the left. For any of you who are ITIL version 3 experts or have at least 17 credits on the ITIL version 3 scheme, then you can fast track much of this stuff in that you can attend a 5-day training course or take advantage of the e-learning course to basically cover all of this stuff. It kind of breaks down as a 5-day course as a day covering foundation content, a day for Create, Deliver and Support, and a day for each of the additional Managing Professional modules. Just stop doing that, excuse me. So if you've got 17 credits or more, then you're going to take this course. That would gain you the ITIL Managing Professional qualification. And if you wanted to complete the full set, then you would just need to do the ITIL Leader, Digital and IT Strategy course to become a Managing Professional and a Strategic Leader. And then therefore you may want to then go on and look at the ITIL Master as well. Okay, I will answer that question at this point just because I think it's a very relevant one. So will the transition course be withdrawn at some point? We've had word that the ITIL version 3 modules will all be withdrawn. I think it's June this year, and the transition will be available for another year after that. So I'm pretty sure it's so from here you're looking at another 14 months to be able to take that transition and shortcut the route. So if it's something that you're interested in, then certainly you should be looking to plan that in the next year or so. Okay, any more qualification scheme often generates questions. So if there's something that crops up, I'm happily take a look at those at the end of the session. So I'll come back to those questions there. Okay, moving on to the Create, Deliver and Support module then. As I say, but only got for a brief amount of time today, so I can only really give you a flavour of what's covered within this. But I think it is fair to say that the Create, Deliver and Support module is probably what most people see as the next logical progression from ITIL Foundation when we're looking at this. And that's because the Create, Deliver and Support content it's all about the engine room of the IT and digital function. So we're looking at the sort of the core areas, the sort of not just keeping the lights on, business as usual stuff, which was traditionally you would have sort of said as service operations. It's more than that. It's more of a focus on the service delivery activity. So it does provide a holistic view of all service delivery activity, looking at from ideas to reality, translating demand to value, which we'll cover more when we look at the value creation section on this. But looking at design, building, testing through to management and support. So it kind of is that. Tried not to use the word life cycle because that's sort of a version 3 concept, but if you understand that, then that really is what we're looking at, sort of that coordinated approach of looking at our products and services from the idea to the design, building, testing, and rolling those things out. And when we look at some of the value streams, I think that will give you a bit of a flavour for that. So I say the engine room of IT and the digital function is really what this is in reference to. But it also looks at what you need in service management to be successful. So how can we achieve success in service management? And this slide really on the right here is just kind of indicating the things that we need to be thinking about to make sure that we've got good service management practices in place. So practices we'll cover shortly as opposed to processes specifically. Skills, knowledge, we need to look at our people, at the organizational structure, the culture, teamwork. Look at our employees, make sure that we've got happy people working for us because they're much more likely to stick around and do a good job for us. General tool awareness, commercial practice, understanding of what our partners and suppliers can bring for us, and lots more. But that really just gives you sort of a flavour of where this particular module is coming from. It's kind of looking at all of those areas and providing some sort of guidance on achieving success with our service management practices. In terms of the specific learning objectives of the Create, Deliver and Support course, then basically there are these sort of 3 things which are all around creating, delivering and supporting services. Actually, it's first part, understand how to plan and build a service value stream. So I'm going to introduce what we mean by value stream shortly, because that may be a new term to some people. It's certainly new to ITIL within ITIL4. Know how relevant ITIL practices contribute to the creation, delivery and support across the service value system and value streams. Again, we're talking about concepts there that you may not be familiar with, and by the end of this session I think you'll get a flavour for where we're coming from with this. And know how to create, deliver and support services. So there's this practical emphasis on what we need to do with our services to make sure that we are effectively putting things in place for effective creation, delivery and ongoing support. So those are the key learning objectives, but it probably help to sort of expand on these points a little bit more to sort of give you a flavour for the contents covered within this book and this particular module. So this particular slide there, so create, deliver and support and the 4 Ds. Okay, I'm going to just ask a question because I know some of you are ITIL version 3 qualified, so you should know this. In ITIL version 3, we used to talk about the 4 Ps of service design. Can anybody tell me what those 4 Ps are? And the reason why I'm asking that, you can just stick it in the chat. The reason why I'm asking that question is because this particular concept, if you're not familiar with it yet, is basically the 4 Ps, but it's actually bringing it to a higher level to sort of demonstrate that this isn't just relevant as we're looking at the design phase. We're sort of looking at all of our service management capabilities and our practices and how we go and do things. So, yeah, somebody, Ruth, thank you very much. People, process, products, partners. That's absolutely right. So in ITIL version 3 and previous versions of ITIL, we used to talk about those 4 areas: people, processes, products and partners as being a means of the 4 things that we need to be thinking about when we're designing our services. Well, the 4 dimensions of service management, if you have a look at this, we've got organizations and people, which is definitely the people aspects that Ruth has mentioned. Information and technology, which was the products. Partners and suppliers, partners, as you might expect, and value streams and processes. So that's all covered within there as the process thing. But as I say, this particular concept is taking it forward from just the service design space into actually, when we're looking at our service management capability, then we should be thinking about all of these four things. And also we should be thinking about external factors as well. And I don't really want to labor on this particular model because that's not really the point of this particular session. But we also need to recognize that we have external things that directly influence the way that we do our service management as well. So we need to be looking at those internal things from an old 4Ps point of view, but in ITIL4 we're talking about the 4Ds. We're looking at the 4 dimensions of service management. And it's through those things that if we've got a holistic view of our service management capability, if we're looking at them all and making sure that we're taking them all into account. So the reason why I'm covering that at this point is because the Create, Deliver and Support book and the Create, Deliver and Support module kind of looks at these 4 areas and branches out into these 4 specific topic areas to structure the content. So the organizations and people aspect, dimension rather, is looking at the evolution of professionalism in IT service management. So we're looking for a professional service management outfit and look at how that's evolved. And specifically in this particular sections, then we're going to be looking at organizational structures, what effective teams look like, how we can look at the skills and competencies of people within our organization, looking at culture generally, and looking at how we can look at embracing the culture that we want in our organization and using that as a means to make our service management capability in line with how we would want it to be. So organizations and people, then those are the sections that we would cover off within that. Number 2, the dimension number 2, information and technology, then we're looking at using information and technology to create, deliver and support services. And this one actually covers quite a lot of areas, so I'm not going to go into these in too much detail, but integration and data sharing, sort of recognizing that that we need to find ways of integrating things and sharing data. And just to sort of give you an example of that, I always think of the NHS's attempts to bring a single clinical record system. Real difficult task for them to do that. We need to have integration and data sharing to enable us to do that. And that kind of gives you a flavour for what we're talking about within that. Reporting and advanced analytics. So again, looking at how we can analyze data and use that as a means to help us make business decisions. And if not, I always think of it's been out for a long time now, long before ITIL4, but sort of the Tesco club card scheme and how that's used to sort of track people's buying patterns, and that helps Tesco come up with ways of laying out their store, because they recognise that people who buy maybe it's buy bottles of Coca-Cola, or also buy big backs of Pringles or whatever it might well be. So, you know, we're just recognising that we can make business decisions based on the data that's provided to us. Collaboration and workflow. You know, we're sort of, certainly as we move into, ITIL moves into sort of more alignment with DevOps ways of working and agile, and collaboration and workflow are key aspects to this. I think the last year, I think we've all had challenges of sort of home working, and actually collaborating when we're not actually in the same office is something that we've all had to overcome, and I'm sure that you're all doing particularly well at that now. But collaboration and workflow is a key aspect to this. Robotic process automation. You know, we're sort of looking at how we can use technology to reduce or remove manual work. So automation is key. Artificial intelligence and machine learning. You know, we're sort of looking at how we can use systems to use data in a way that's going to be in a cognitive way. It's going to learn what's actually happening, make decisions for us potentially based on certain situations. So that's creeping in. Continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. When I sort of see this, I'm thinking of, it might not be relevant for all of your organizations, but some I would say it certainly will be. And I always think of Amazon that I saw recently, that when Amazon moved across to AWS, then they actually got to the point where they were releasing deployments, they were deploying every 11.7 seconds. Now, I'm sure that they've improved since then, but it just kind of demonstrates that when we're sort of rolling out things, it isn't a simple case of waiting for a weekly change advisory board meeting to convene so that we can actually review these things. We need to be finding ways of using the technology to enable us to automate, build, test, and deploy, and that's really what we're talking about here. And the value of an effective information model, just trying to make sure that we've got sort of consistency in our information, and we all know how we can use data to help support all of the some of the approaches that I've already mentioned, and automation of sort of service management generally, sort of looking at ways of maybe automating the change process, for example, or looking at more effective ways of doing service request management. Lots of things that we can look at from an automation perspective in the service management space. So that's the information and technology aspects. Partners and suppliers, prioritizing work and managing suppliers. So quite simply, why do we need to prioritize work? And the key emphasis here is work, really. We're not, I think in ITIL, we're quite good at prioritizing in different areas. So we might prioritize incidents, for example, or we might prioritize changes, or prioritize improvement initiatives or projects. But are we very good at sort of collectively looking at the work that's in front of us and trying to work out what we should do first across those things? Often an incident is given a higher priority over an improvement opportunity, because an incident is sort of seen as something's gone wrong and we need to jump on it quickly. Well, actually, we need to try and identify what's going to deliver the greater value for the business, and that should be how we're driving our priority mechanism. So there's a concept of managing work as tickets with introducing the create, deliver, and support section to cover these things, and that's quite an interesting way of looking at it. If we're looking at partners and suppliers, then obviously we're looking at commercial and sourcing considerations. Contracts that we need to have in place working with these organizations. What type of arrangement do we want with our partners and suppliers in terms of how they're going to contribute towards our products and services? So we need to be thinking about all of those things. And then in this section, value streams and processes. Again, we'll look at value streams shortly, so don't worry if you're not too sure what we mean by that. Value streams to create, deliver, and support services. We're going to go through a couple of model value streams. These are the ones that are covered on the course, just to sort of give you a flavour of what a value stream is, but it also gives you that sort of structure of the course when we get into this particular section. So in the next few slides, we'll have a look at value creation, and we'll specifically look at ITIL service value streams, and we'll look at the models that we use for create, deliver, and support. And there's concept of a minimal viable practice. This is sort of very much looking at agile and lean ways of working, sort of recognizing that we don't necessarily need to launch with something which is the all singing, all dancing solution that we're trying to provide for our customers. We need to sort of try and identify what we can deliver quickly, which is going to deliver value for the organization. So using value streams, it sort of helps us to identify what's the minimal viable practice. We can use that as a means of building a better solution, product or services, practice as we move forward. So those things are all covered on the course. But I think key aspects with a lot of that stuff, which I've just talked about, is value creation. We talked about value streams and service value system, and really we just sort of need to know what it is that we're talking about within this stuff. So some of you may have seen the service value system, which in all intents and purposes, this is what ITIL4 actually is. It covers pretty much everything that you would expect to see in ITIL. The service value system, I mean, it's an operating model. It sort of describes how the components of us as an IT service provider, how all those things fit together, the activities that we perform, how we structure our work. All of it is all geared towards providing value for stakeholders. So the purpose of this particular model is to ensure that the organization continually co-creates value with all stakeholders through the use and management of products and services. So yeah, you can sort of see that from the definitions of these things, it's clearly looking to enable value for our stakeholders. Without going into too much detail, what we're actually referring to with this diagram, this is sort of an end-to-end delivery of value, responding to opportunities and demands from our customer base. So if our customer's got a requirement for a new service, then that presents an opportunity or demand for us to respond to as a service provider. And all this stuff in the middle, in this middle hexagon, is what we do, enable to provide that value for them. So the ultimate end value will be the service that they've been requesting in that particular example. And we do all sorts in the middle, which we're not really going to go into in much detail on this particular session, but that's really what this is intended for. So from a value creation point of view, it's really that end-to-end flow of intercepting the requirements from our stakeholders, specifically our customers, understanding what they want, the stuff that we do as an IT service provider in the middle, ultimately to facilitate value for them. And I use the example of a new service just to give you another example, because it works on different levels. If we're looking at providing end user support, it could just be that we've got an end user that's experiencing an issue with their desktop PC. Then that creates demand for our services because they need to speak with the service desk to get some sort of resolution to their issue. And as a service provider, we do all these things in the middle to ultimately to realize value for that user, because they can get back on with their work once we've actually got them up and running again. So that's the sort of the intention of the value system, and that's how ITIL4 is kind of structured. Very, very briefly, just to pick out some of these points so that we can build from here. The service value chain I'm going to cover in the next slide, but essentially these are the activities, the actual activities that we do in response to the demand to facilitate the value. But those activities are supported and constrained by the governance that we have in place. You know, we need to give some sort of direction. People can't just do what they want to do in terms of dealing with these activities. We've got to prioritize workloads. We've got to have specific rules of engagement, specific policies and things that we need to follow. And we also have practices that are going to help us in delivering those activities. And again, I'll talk about practices on another slide, but to give you an example, if we're doing it, resolving an end user's issue with a desktop PC, then the incident management practice is going to play a huge part of delivering that. It's not going to be the only practice that we use, but it's going to be one that's going to be a key one with that particular activity, that particular value stream, if you like. So we've got governance and practices going around our activities. Around the outside of this diagram, we've also got continual improvement at the bottom here, because we're sort of recognizing that we want to instill a culture of continual improvement in everything that we do. And we've also got 7 service management guiding principles in ITIL4, which are 7 sort of statements on how we would want to be working in a modern service management way. And I'm just going to leave that now there, because there's a lot to cover within that. But just to give you an example, focus on value is one of the guiding principles. So we're trying to embed a culture into the organization that everything that we do is focused on value for stakeholders, so that if we're doing some significant work that doesn't create much value, then we should be questioning why we're doing it in the first place, and maybe we should be either not doing it or optimizing the way that we do that. So the service value system is there as part of value creation. I mentioned that the service value chain at the center of this particular model is the specific activities that we perform in sort of enabling that value. So you can sort of see that the service value chain, it's got a similar shape. We've got demand and we've got value here. So it's because it's at the center of that service value system diagram, those things are relevant. And this too is an operating model, but it's just focused on the key activities that we need to respond to demand and facilitate value realization through the creation of our products and services. So you can sort of see here products and services on the right hand side of this diagram contributing towards to value, and that's really what we're looking for. Everything that we do as an IT service provider, contributing towards our products and services, which ultimately provides value for our stakeholders. And you can sort of see that there are 6 types of activity, and really, I think it'll, instead of going into too much detail about what those are at this stage, I think it'll be easier for me to demonstrate to you what a value stream is, because it kind of encompasses what's kind of going on across these stages. So I'll do that in an upcoming slide. But just to say, on the create, deliver, and support module, which is what we're really talking about today, then it's this central cube of obtain, build, design and transition, and deliver and support that encompasses the activities that we're really looking at from a create, deliver, and support perspective. So it's how these things work in a coordinated way and an ongoing use of our products and services that we're really focused on the create, deliver, and support course. It's not to say that the other areas aren't covered at all, because we do look at planning, engage, and improve activity in certain aspects, but it is really this central cube that's of most relevance. And the other modules deliberately cover some of the other areas in more detail. In terms of how this works, value chain interactions with practices, I mentioned that practices, it sits under the service value chain in the service value system. I mentioned that activities can use various practices to help achieve a step in the value stream, if you like. So probably helps just to explain a couple of concepts here. So first of all, when I'm talking about activities, we're sort of saying that everything that we do as an IT service provider is in response to some sort of input, whether that's the demand from the users or customers themselves, or whether it's further down the chain where we're perhaps, I don't know, picking up on a report and analysing the information as the activity, and then we produce an output to make some business decisions. So everything that we do has an input and an output, and it could be the input is the demand. There could be lots of different activities along the way, and the output could be the end value, or it could be the thing that we produce as part of that activity. But each of these activities that we perform, each activity uses different combinations of ITIL practices. So I mentioned that we've got 34 practice guides in the ITIL4 framework. It probably helps us understand what we mean by a practice. So at the bottom of the slide here, what is a practice? It's a set of organizational resources designed for performing work or accomplishing an objective. So I always sort of think people who have got experience of previous versions of ITIL, they sort of look at this and say, oh, processes have become practices. And that's not quite true, because we still have processes as part of the practice. When you think of that 4 dimensions of service management, I think it serves as a great example to demonstrate that a practice, when we're looking at incident management as an example, it isn't just about the incident management process. It is about the organizations and people in terms of how we structure ourselves to look at the effective resolution of incidents. It's the information and technology that we use, whether it's the service management tool set or the remote desktop tools that we use to hop onto someone's PC and have a look at what's going on. It's the contribution through our partners and suppliers, because we do need to escalate to vendors for them to help us with various fixes. So the practice kind of encompasses all of those 4 dimensions of service management. And I sort of like to think of it as, using a non-IT example, if you think of a dental practice, then a dental practice, it's all the things, not just the process of looking after teeth. It's not just the dentists themselves. It's all of the things that are in place from an oral healthcare point of view to help with the ongoing maintenance of patients' teeth. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. Everything that we have in place to help us in a specific area, and that's what we mean by a practice. So the value chain interfaces with practices, and as we go through some of the model value streams, I'm going to pick out which practices are covered and are relevant to each of the value streams. And really, I don't want to leave you with the impression that practices are sort of pigeonholed in certain places, because they're not. They can be used anywhere, although it's fair to say that various practices are going to be more relevant in other areas than some of the other practices. But taking this as an example, so I'm going to go through 2 model value streams. The first one is a model value stream for a new service. And actually, as I've mentioned, on the Create, Deliver and Support module, you spend a lot of time looking at these particular value streams, going into detail to sort of understand what's going on across this piece. But I'm just going to spend a little bit of time very briefly covering this off to say, if we're looking at a new service, our customer's got a requirement for a new service, then we're going to intercept that that requirement in the engage activity of the service value chain. And you can see over here, number one, acknowledge and document service and the service requirements. So we're going to have a conversation. What is it that you want? Let's understand what those requirements are. And then we'll move into plan activity, number two, where we're going to decide whether to invest in the new service or not. Is there a justified business case? Is it worth the investment? If not, then perhaps we need to say, actually, it's going to be too costly for us to do this. Do you really want us to pursue this, Mr. Customer? If we are going to move ahead with it, then we move into three, the design space, where we're looking to design and architect the new service to meet customers' requirements. Moving into four, where we're going to build, configure, or buy the service components. So, you know, it could be a procurement, it could be a development thing, but we're going to obtain and build in this space. Moving back into design and transition, but now we're in the transition activity, actually, where we're looking to deploy the service components in preparation for launch. And actually moving into number six, deliver and support, where we're looking to release new service to customers and users. So you can sort of see here, actually, we've got transition and deliver, which often causes a bit of confusion here. But what we're talking about at 5, in the transition space, we're looking at deployment. And actually at 6, in the deliver space, we're looking at releasing these components. And that's all about separating deployment and release activity apart, because actually deployment is the sort of the technical moving of service components into potentially live environments, but actually through the release management practice, we're looking to make these things available for use, whether it's through some sort of communication or whatever that might well be. So separate things, but actually once we've released new service to customers, our products and services are live, users are using them, and we've created value. And that's really what a value stream is. It's that end-to-end approach of actually responding to demand and facilitating value. And under this particular model value stream of a new service, then there are these practices that you do look at on the Create, Deliver and Support course. So service design, software development and management, deployment management, release management, service validation and testing, and change enablement. And actually, we often get asked questions of which ITIL course is it that covers a particular practice. So you can sort of see that this one, it's not that only this module covers these practices. Other modules also cover some of these practices as well, but you can sort of get a feel for what's covered on this course, because these are all very, very relevant in the steps involved in coming up with a new product or service. We also have a model value stream for restoring a live service. And again, having spent a fair bit of time on the last one, I'm not going to go into this one in as much detail, but just to sort of say that you can see on this particular slide that we're following a stepped approach where we're intercepting the user's issue, engage, we're trying to come up with a fix in deliver and support. If we find one, then we've resolved the incident ticket and we can move on to value. If we haven't got a solution that we're aware of and we need to do some further investigation, then we might need to move into obtain and build and obtain a fix from a specialist team. We might need to look at deploying the fix. And moving back into the deliver and support, we might then to make sure that that the user is happy. We've provided them with the resolution that they're looking for, and things are up and running. And then we still might want to go in and sort of get some feedback from the user about how well we did and try and identify improvement opportunities to how we do these things. So it all kind of feeds back into the system. And this is a good example, because whereas this previous one, it kind of, if you think of the ITIL version 3 lifecycle, that's perfectly what the version 3 lifecycle was all about. But actually, there are lots of different value streams, and these are just examples of them. Restoring a live service isn't quite as linear as that. We're kind of jumping around the value chain in terms of coming up with resolutions for these things. And the practices that we cover in this particular value stream are service desk, incident management, problem management, knowledge management, service level management, and monitoring and event management. And I think you can see from the practices that I've mentioned covered on this particular module, when I talk about it being the next logical progression from Foundation, certainly for those sort of support staff, and probably ITIL4 now really truly is embracing the development guys as well, then you can sort of see that these things do fit in very much with that next logical progression from foundation. It's not to say that you have to start at Great Delivery and Support. You can start somewhere else, but it's the one we're expecting to be the most popular module beyond foundation. Very briefly, just another practice that's covered on the course, which isn't encompassed in those value streams, is workforce and talent management practice. And that's really, I'm not going to spend any time on this, just to sort of say that a new practice that's come along in ITIL4, we're recognising that we want to have the best possible people working for us. So we are going to be looking at how we recruit, looking at how we maintain skills and competencies of the staff in our organisation, how we get them to sort of buy into the culture that we're looking for and those things. And the workforce and talent management practice really helps us with those particular aspects. Okay, so that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour of some of the concepts around Create, Deliver and Support, and some of the things that we do cover on that particular module. So I hope that gives you whetted your appetite to want to know more. That's really what we're looking for. In terms of what next, well, I promised that on this for each of these modules, starting with Create, Deliver and Support, we'll have a look at the potential target audience. Well, you might have formulated your own opinion whether it's right for you based on the content. Whether that's for you or your colleagues. Generally, we're sort of recognising that this course would be suitable for individuals managing the operation of IT-enabled services, delivering products and services. So we are including development, those involved in deployment, monitoring and support, those traditional operational aspects. Individuals responsible for assuring that services are delivered and supported according to agreed levels. You probably picked up, we cover service level management on this, so recognising that when we're delivering and supporting products and services, we're working to service levels, so we need to understand what's going on there. So there's some example job titles. This is far from an exhaustive list, although there's quite a lot on there. So if you sort of see your role or your colleagues' roles in there, then that might give an indicator of where this sits. But yeah, generically, if you look at those titles, I would say that it's kind of a wide spectrum of your traditional IT roles that you might be looking at from a service management point of view. So maybe that's somewhere to focus. Okay. In terms of training options, say we want to really enthusing you guys that you perhaps want to progress onto some of the training options, and Create, Deliver and Support is there, as well as all of the other modules. Just to say that obviously we're in challenging times at the moment, as the last 12 months, pretty much all of our training delivery has switched to virtual. So you can see that from a virtual perspective, we've got a schedule up until at the end of June, where we've got a couple of outings of Foundation coming up. We've got a couple of outings of Create, Deliver and Support, one in April, one in June. So if this is something that you're interested in, then obviously I can pick up with you after the event to see if we can pursue that. We will be looking at scheduling classroom courses again. Obviously, COVID allowing and sort of us this return to normality taking place that we're all hoping that it will. Then we'll start to schedule some dates from June onwards. We have got a couple of classroom dates for Foundation schedule, one in July, one in October. We've got digital and IT strategy down in the classroom, but this because we've got bookings from people on there that really want to stick with that classroom training. So we're hoping that we're going to be able to deliver that when that rolls around. Also, just to say, we have e-learning options for most of these. The only exception being digital and IT strategy, which isn't there yet. And also just to say that if you're interested in any of these training courses for yourself or your colleagues, then broadly speaking, it works out as being cost effective if you've got 4 or 5 people, that we actually provided you with a private event, and whether that be virtual, whether that be physical classroom or whatever. So we're able to provide those things for you as well. But yeah, 4 or 5 people tends to be the sort of the break-even point as to whether you would contemplate sending them to us on public outings or whether we would provide you with a private event. And of course, if you've got up to 12 and potentially we sometimes go up to 16 as well, then the cost per head dramatically reduces. So certainly ITIL4 Foundation in your organisation is something that you're looking at, then you've got those possibilities. So happy to take any inquiries from you after this event on any of those things that you potentially might be interested in. For those, obviously, those people attending our webinars, I always like to sort of give you a little bit of a reward for your attendance. I know that the session itself hopefully will have presented you with some value, but we've got some special offers incorporated as well. So ITIL4 Foundation training, we've got discounts on the e-learning training, the public and virtual outings, and the private virtual courses, and the ITIL4 advanced modules. And by advanced modules, we mean create, deliver, and support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, direct, plan and improve, and digital and IT strategy. So for those advanced modules, we also have discounts on the virtual public courses, and also we're offering a discount on the private courses. If you have got requirements for a number of people who may want to take advantage of this training, then we can factor that in. Don't worry about taking this on board too much, because I'm going to send you all an email after this session with copies of the slides and details of these offers. And then we'll be able to you can respond to those if there is anything that's of particular interest. Upcoming virtual events. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's session. We've got more of these modules coming up. I know that some of you have booked across all of them, which is great. More than happy for people to do that. The more the merrier. So this Friday, we've got the Drive Stakeholder Value module. Next week on Tuesday, we've got High Velocity IT. Next Friday, it's not one of these Insight series ones, but we are providing a free ITIL4 half-day overview event. So if this is something that you're interested in, then feel free to sign yourself or your colleagues up for those. Tuesday the 23rd of March, Direct, Plan and Improve. 26th of March, Digital and IT Strategy. That'll bring us to the end of this Insight series of webinars. But another couple of dates for your diary potentially. These unfortunately aren't free services, but they are of great value. So we've got a couple of one-day workshops virtually coming up. Problem Management in Practice on the 26th of March, which is £249 per person to attend, and Managing Major Incidents on Friday the 23rd of April, another virtual one-day workshop, again £249 per person for that particular course. So yeah, feel free to ask me about those courses, those dates. Happy to get you all booked onto any of those things. And just to also say, we have, obviously, with all this online working, remote working, people working from home, how we've had to adapt to the training industry. We've got a couple of our business simulations, which have always been very popular in the classroom, the physical classroom. These have now been adapted to an online environment. So many organizations are sort of coping with increased business demand, that the pressure of home working is a challenge that we're all having to overcome. We need to innovate, but we also need to deliver on our service level agreements. Well, these two missions, Mars Lander and Apollo 13, are all about trying to bring to life this best practice theory. So Mars Lander is a agile service management workshop. Apollo 13 is more about your traditional IT service management of incident, problem and change, those types of things. Continual improvement will factor within there. So if you're interested in sort of a team event where we can sort of bring to life some of this best practice theory, then I would really recommend the business simulations approach, whether it be at Mars Lander or Apollo 13 or others. We also have some DevOps and other project management simulations as well. But if these are of interest, then let me know. I can see that one or two of you are having to sign off. So I've just posted the link to our customer feedback survey. But I am going to move on to the next slide in a second and take your questions. I can see that I've missed a few questions, so I'm going to go back and have a look at a few things. If you can take a minute or so just to have a look at the Survey Monkey link, give us some feedback. Although this is an event that I know is an hour's sort of free event, if you like, we do want to provide the best possible service that we can. So any of your feedback to future events would be most welcome. And there will be an option for you to opt into our marketing communications. And I will just sort of say, we do push out mailers on a regular basis about things like these events that you've attended today and the other things that I've advertised. So if you are interested, you've signed up today, if there's other events that you might well be interested in, then it'd be a good idea for you to make sure that you do opt in to those things and take on board that information. whilst I'm taking questions, I'm happy for you to, in the background, to be beavering away and providing us with that information. It'd be really useful for us. And we always say that feedback is a gift. So anything that you can give to us to help us improve would be very much appreciated. Okay, on to the Q&A session then. So I'm just going through, looking at the chat to pick out the things that I've missed. If you have got any questions whilst I'm doing that, then just keep adding them in, and I'm happy to field them all. So I've got a question. Do you provide a similar 3-day course to become IT strategic leader? So the IT strategic leader, I was going to whiz back to the qualification scheme slide. So IT strategic leader, so you would need to have ITIL Foundation, the 3-day course Direct Plan and Improve, and the 3-day course Digital and IT Strategy. And as I say, they're all available as virtual classroom or e-learning, apart from Digital and IT Strategy, which is only available as a classroom and virtual, not an e-learning option at this point. But yeah, we can provide all of those things. Hopefully that answers that question. Do you have virtual or e-learning for the transition course? We do. Yeah, I probably should include that in the presentation actually. But yeah, we don't have a virtual managing professional transition. We do have an upcoming date in June. It's Alice, and I'll send you details of it after the event in Manchester. Again, it's partly because the people who have booked on people that we know quite well, and they're quite keen to come and see us face to face. So we don't quite have the transition course available virtually. We do have it available as an e-learning course, and we are providing it in Manchester as well. Is this recording available to view later? My colleague was unable to attend today, but he's booked on later webinars. Then yes, I have recorded the session, and I will make it available for you to distribute to colleagues. So that's happy to do that. I'm also going to send you through copies of the slides as well. So that all should be fine. Capability modules. Okay, we've taken the decision with ITIL version 3 because demand just really dropped off. I mean, I think it was a combination of things. ITIL 4 came out, so people stopped booking onto ITIL version 3 courses, as you'd expect, and the COVID hit, so numbers were down. We took the decision at the start of this year that we were only going to offer ITIL version 3 courses as e-learning options, and I think a lot of other training providers have taken the same approach. So ITIL version 3 life cycle courses and ITIL version 3 capability courses are still available, but as e-learning options. Someone needs to disappear, that's fine. Could you please send details of how to book trainings? Yeah, well, the special offers that I've mentioned, I'll send across links to those courses, and you can click those links. You can book online. If it's a requirement for a number of people, then just ask me specifically in response to my email. Just reply to me and give me an indication of specifically what it is that you're after, and I can provide you with a quotation for you to go away and consider and see if that's something that you want to do. Certainly, that's how we tend to do things for the on-site private events, the training events, or the virtual training private events. I found the ITIL version 3 life cycle and expert exams quite tricky, requiring some exam technique skills. Are the V4 exams also as tricky? Very, very good question, actually, and so good that I'm thinking that I might actually incorporate that into all of the upcoming webinars. I would say that the ITIL version 4 exams are much more straightforward than version 3. Version 3 used to have this complex multiple choice where, if you recall, of 4 multiple choice answers, the answers had varying weights. So you had one which was a 5-point answer, one was a 3-point answer, one was a 1-point answer, and something was a 0-point distractor was what it was used to be called. I would say that they're more aligned to ITIL Foundation exams now, in that it's just a fairly straightforward 4-choice, multiple choice. 3 are incorrect and 1 is correct. You've got to try and pick the best answer. It's not quite as straightforward as that all 4, the 3 wrong answers are completely wrong. It's kind of a case of just identifying which is the best answer. But I would definitely indicate that you're used to version 3 exams, you'll find the 4 ones easier. That means they're harder than the ITIL Foundation exam, don't get me wrong, because you're being examined at a higher balloons level, which kind of indicates the level of difficulty. But the structure of the questions, it's more straightforward. Straightforward multiple choice. One question with 4 potential answers, and one of those is the best answer, which is the only one that you get a mark for, and the others are incorrect. Somebody patted me on the back for a good session. That's always nice to hear. People had to dash off. Yeah, I've overrun slightly, so apologies for that, guys. I will be sending out slide packs to all the people that have registered for the event, so you will all get that. Suggestion that we include target audience earlier in the material. I'm happy to take that on board. I've got no issue with us moving that around. Some of the advanced modules are there, e-learning for those two. Yeah, we do e-learning for create, deliver, and support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, and direct plan and improve. There's not one yet for digital and IT strategy, but all of them are covered off as an e-learning option. Anything else? People disappearing. Lots of thank yous. Lovely. I think that's everybody's question. I'll just hang fire for 30 seconds just in case I have missed anybody's question or if anybody else has got anything else to say. But I'll just wrap things up in doing that by thanking you all for your attendance today. So I'm going to see some of your names come onto the later webinar, so that'll be really useful to see you on there as well. So obviously we run these sessions because we're hoping to stimulate an interest in you to book onto our courses and move things forward. Hopefully, as the economy improves significantly, hopefully we'll start to see a surge in people booking on training courses. Hopefully, I'll get to see you guys on either another one of these events or a training course at some point very soon. Thank you all for your attendance, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you haven't provided us with some feedback yet, just a final reference to our survey link there. If you can provide us with that, that'll be really useful. Take care of yourself, and I'll speak to you all soon. Take care. Bye now.